If you ever felt like you've been losing on Prize Picks or other traditional sports books, it's probably because you are. The goal of a sports book or like a Prize Picks, a versus the house model sports book is to simply beat you and make it feel like you're winning more when in reality you're losing. In this video, I'm going to talk exactly about the differences between Prize Picks, a traditional sports book, and a peer-to-peer model. I'm going to weigh in on the pros and cons of both, but more importantly, I want to talk about why the peer-to-peer system, why I believe, is the future of fantasy sports and sports betting. And before we jump into the video, I want to give a brief introduction of myself. My name is Matt Downs, current CEO of Epic Fantasy Sports, a fantasy sports app designed to help casual sports fans win more. My previous line of business was showing sharp sports bettors how to beat against the house models, against house sports books. Because the reality was there was a point in time, 2-3 years ago, where sports books were very exploitable before they caught up to the sharp sports bettors, right? So the mindset behind a sports book and a sharp sports bettor is you try to find line discrepancies, right? You have millions and millions of data points, FanDuel, DraftKings, Prize Picks, all your major sports books, and you can directly compare those price points to other price points and take advantage of the ones that are the softest. And that's how you take advantage of the sports book. But since that time, sharp sports books have gotten even sharper to the point now where they're limiting sharp sports bettors. So before going too far into the major problem that I'm trying to solve, let's actually talk about the basics about what a sports book versus the house model even is. A versus the house model is where the sports book is taking action on the other side of your bet. Now, what a lot of casual sports fans don't understand is that FanDuel, Prize Picks, your bigger sports books, are pouring millions and millions of dollars into further critiquing their models and making them even sharper so that you, as a sports bettor, whether you're a casual sports bettor or a sharp sports bettor, it becomes very difficult to outsmart them. Right? They're always finding the sharpest projections across the entire industry. And on top of finding the sharpest projections, they're also charging some kind of VIG, some price on each side of this projection so that if they are off, they're giving themselves a cushion so that over the long term, there's enough losing bettors so that they make enough money. And if you happen to be the small 1%ers, the small 1% of sharp sports bettors that can outsmart the sports book, guess what? Your time's limited. And not only your time, your actual bankroll is. They'll ban you, and they have the right to ban you at any sportsbook if you start winning money from them. It's like if you walk into a casino, right, and you start playing poker, the second that they start getting suspicious of you counting cards, right, they're going to ban you because it's a private company. They have every right to do that. But here's where I have a problem, right? They always talk about responsible gambling, and they always talk about fair play, but if you can turn around and then kick you out of a sports book or limit you, it's like, how is that fair? I mean, anybody with a functioning brain can realize that that just simply isn't fair. And if you're going to preach fairness, then actually show that you're going to play fair. And why does this business model work for the industry? It's because a lot of people just simply don't care about winning. They just simply care about enjoying a game, having a little bit of stake in the game, than sitting back and enjoying the game. And the small 1%ers, they want nothing to do with you because you're taking money from the company. It makes sense, right? Now let's flip over to the other argument. Let's talk about peer-to-peer sports betting or fantasy sports and talk about why that is a scalable solution opposed to a sports book, at least for the sharp sports bettors and also casual audience. The first point might be obvious, but you're not competing against the house. You're competing against other peers. And the peer-to-peer model just simply grows. It gets bigger the more users that it has, right? I don't care if John Smith is beating Bobby, right? I don't care about that matchup. All I care is that they're beating each other because what the peer-to-peer model is doing is taking a small percent entry fee from these users. And how that is different is because if you happen to find an edge and you're playing against all these other peers and you happen to be good at your job, right, you're going to get rewarded more. There's zero incentive to limit somebody who's consistently winning against other peers. This might seem like a wild comparison, but you take a national basketball player, all right? They pour time, hundreds and hundreds, thousands of hours into, perfecting their craft, getting better at basketball, right? They're investing time and technically money at that point into getting better at their craft. And I'm talking about, the professional basketball players. They know one day that they're going to be a professional basketball player. They're at a certain point where they've perfected their craft to get to that point. And once you get to that point, you're going to earn a significant amount of money. Well, here's the argument. On a peer-to-peer platform, if you really perfect your craft that much and you consistently find edges, you should be rewarded for that because you consistently pour time and money into perfecting your craft and beating other peers the same way a basketball player would beat other players on the opposing team, right? At least you should be given the opportunity to. If you're competing against the house, you're not even given that opportunity. It's like, going to perfect your craft, showing you're really good at it, and then they slam you in the face and say, hey, get off my sports book because we no longer want you, you're taking our money. See, when you're a professional basketball player, you're providing a ton of value, entertainment value, driving merchandise for the bigger company, NBA, right? But you're doing nothing when you get that good at your job, when you're a professional sports bettor and you're going against the house, other than taking money. Another pro to this model is it's just simply more fun to compete against other users. I mean, who wants to compete against the house, get beat consistently, go into a spiraling depression? It happens often, actually. But here on a peer-to-peer model, you can trash talk your friends, you can play against other users, and honestly, you can learn from them. You're not going to learn anything by going over the FanDuel and placing hundreds of dollars of bets and consistently losing. And oh, by the way, they're going to encourage you to keep playing there. Another good comparison is you should never compare the sports book in terms of their sharp appeal, right, to another sharp sports bettor, because those are the sharp sports bettors that you'll probably find on a peer-to-peer application. Technically, the peer-to-peer model will attract a lot of sharp sports bettors. There's definitely no secret there. But those sharp sports bettors are still not going to be sharper than your typical sports book, especially your FanDuels of the world, your DraftKings of the world. So honestly, it's just easier to win if you're going against other peers, even if they are sharper. I like to think of myself as a sharp sports bettor, and I can tell you right now that I'm still not as sharp as a FanDuel or a DraftKings. And anyone who tells you that they are, they're just simply lying. And that's exactly what the problem that I'm trying to solve in the industry is really all about, is really, I want to kill off sportsbooks and this ability to take advantage of users who have gambling problems, who just suck at sports betting. And oh, by the way, that's about 99% of people. Instead, make the experience more social, more casual, actually encourage winning. So I mentioned earlier in the video that I am the CEO of Epic Fantasy Sports. And yes, this video is all about the peer-to-peer model versus sportsbooks. I want to show you guys what I came up with and the problem that I'm really trying to hammer home, trying to solve for this community. So for the rest of this video, I'm going to walk you through Epic Fantasy Sports. This is a peer-to-peer 100% model. It will never be against the house for all the reasons that we've talked about in this video. More importantly, I want to show you all the features, all the game types, and I just want to show you how fun it is. So this is going to solve a lot of the problems in the industry, assuming that I can keep up with the sports books and allow this thing to grow. And at least that's the entire mindset behind starting a brand like this. It's extremely challenging, right, to keep up with the sports books. Now, I've been fortunate enough over the years to have gained a following where I feel like I can at least compete or be somewhat competitive with some of these sports books, right? There's like 200 of them now. So anyway, this is a fantasy sports peer-to-peer application called Epic Fantasy. And what you do is you simply just pick your players, pick a fantasy team, and then load up against other players, other users, and you try to take their money, as we've talked about many times in this video. So this has two major modes that appeal to two major types of users, right? We have 50-50 mode, and we also have tournament. Tournament mode is set up kind of like a normal parlay, where you try to go for the big hit, the big win. While 50-50 mode is geared more towards your casual sports fans that are just sitting on their couch and want to simply win. You can actually do that pretty easily with the 50-50 mode. However, your upside isn't as high as comparing it to the tournament mode where you're trying to go for your big win, right? So let's talk about 50-50 mode. 50-50 mode is pretty simple. By the way, I'm on a dev account, so you'll see a lot of things that don't exactly mirror up with the actual app. But the entire notion stays the same. The entire mindset stays the same here. So you go through and you pick your players, right? So if I like I find an edge on NBA, I head over to the NBA tab and I select my favorite players. You can choose between 3, 4, or 6 picks, right? Let's just hypothetically say I lock in 3 players here, and I want to compete against another group of users who have also selected 3 players for NBA. Confirm my pick, I lock them in, and here I can choose between different contests. All I need to do in order to win this contest is beat 50% of the field. When the contest starts, if there's only 2 people, I only need to beat one other person to 1.8x my money. The entry fee is 10%. It's taken off the top, but this is a lot easier to win in terms of competing with the sports book, right? So my 3-man roster, if I get 3 picks, right, by selecting more or less on the players that I just selected, and I happen to get all 3 of those right, and my opponent goes 1 of 3, 2 of 3, 0 of 3, I beat him, right? And I take his money. And I won 1.8x my money, and the loser loses all of his money, right? It's that simple. But here it facilitates the entire flow of competing against other users. And once you've entered certain contests, you can go back to the main lobby, see who you're competing against, see everything that you need to see when going against other users. And you can even make changes to your lineup. You can edit picks and all that fun stuff. So let's actually head over to the other game type now. It's called tournament mode. And tournament mode is comprised of the exact same kind of flow. However, when you get to the very end of the flow, your payouts are just going to be drastically different. What you do is you just go through, you select your players, right? But when you get out to the payout screen, you only get paid out. The person who wins the entire contest, gets first place, is the only person that gets paid out. So again, we take entry fees off the top, but this is a lot more competitive. And not only that, we reward the people who score the most points. So let's say, for instance, in this exact example, there's 10 people in this contest, assuming the entire contest fills up. Let's say that you only go 2 of 3, but you also happen to be the top performing person in that contest. You're going to get paid out 9x your money. So you see the potential winnings here: $45 for getting first, $225 for getting first here if you do a $25 entry, and the $900 potential winnings if you put in $100. So that's exactly how tournament mode works. If you happen to really find an edge on some of your picks, you can choose between these two different game modes and maximize your upside, specifically on tournament. But yeah, guys, that's exactly how this application works. Very straightforward, and honestly super excited to just play around with this app, get more game types out, and hopefully open it up to the community, to broader sports fans, and just have everybody collectively get behind this application. And we'll solve a huge problem in the industry right now, because the main problem, as you guys have seen throughout this video, is the fact that sportsbooks are just predators and they want your money. And I don't necessarily want the money. I want to prove to sportsbooks that there's other ways to appeal to sports fans. So hopefully this video was educational for you guys. Hopefully you guys learned something today. If you did, please do hit that subscribe button, notification bell, and of course smash that like button for all of our future epic content. With all that being said, have a great rest of your day.